Given, as you heard from the introduction, that I have been around for a while and have had the opportunity and the privilege and the pleasure of serving in 5 administrations, I thought I would bring that perspective to the topic today, is the issue of pandemic preparedness. And if there's one message that I want to leave with you today based on my experience, and you'll see that in a moment, is that there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena. There will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that. But also there will be a surprise outbreak. And I hope by the end of my relatively short presentation, you will understand why the history of the last 32 years that I've been the director of NIAID will tell the next administration that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with.
Yeah, that was Dr. Fauci back in 2017 saying that there was going to be a pandemic. Now, we got to talk about Dr. Fauci because I don't know if you heard, but, yeah. And as you guys can see on your screen, this is a .gov, okay? This is .gov. This is an official government website. This is not, okay? This is not a drill, okay? This is the real deal. And obviously it's titled The Lab Leak, The True Origins of COVID-19. Yeah, this is straight from the government. And I wanted to talk about this because there's so much in this that, I mean, it's absolutely wild. So let's read here because this is wild stuff. The proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2 publication, which was used repeatedly by public health officials and the media to discredit the lab leak theory, was prompted by Dr. Fauci to push the preferred narrative that COVID-19 originated naturally. 1, the virus possesses a biological characteristic that is not found in nature. Data shows that all COVID-19 cases stem from a single introduction into humans. This runs contrary to previous pandemics where there were multiple spillover events. So according to the government, this came from one case. Wuhan is home to China's foremost SARS research lab, which has a history of conducting gain-of-function, gene-altering, and organism supercharging at inadequate biosafety levels. Wuhan Institute of Virology researchers were sick with COVID-like symptoms in the fall of 2019, months before COVID-19 was discovered at the wet market. By nearly all measures of science, if there was evidence of a natural origin, it would have already surfaced, but it hasn't. And so here is the Wuhan Institute of Virology down here, and here's the wet market that everyone was talking about. At first, I think the narrative was that the wet market was like right across the street or really, really close. I mean, they're not super far away, 7.5 miles, but there's a decent distance in between these two locations, as you can see on your screen here. All right. And the thing about this is I think they're going to try to go after Dr. Fauci because, one, they keep putting his name in here. And there's also something else in here that you guys are going to want to see as well later on. And we'll get to that here in just a minute. This is wild stuff, man. Which was used repeatedly. Okay, we already read that. We already read all of that. So, where are we at? Current government mechanisms. A lab-related incident involving gain-of-function research is the most likely origin of COVID-19. Current government mechanisms for overseeing this dangerous gain-of-function research are incomplete, severely convoluted, and lack global applicability. Okay, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of this, and why I really wanted to talk about this is this right here. They literally put Dr. Fauci's pardon right here on the website. Why else would they do that? Why Why would they have to put Dr. Fauci's pardon on the website? We both know why. A full and unconditional pardon for any offenses against the United States which he may have committed or taken part in from January 1st, 2014. Yeah, and they highlighted for any offenses. I think they're going to try to take him down. I think they're going to try to figure out a way to circumvent that pardon and go after this guy. But HHS obstruction. The Biden administration's HHS engaged in a multi-year campaign of delay, confusion, and non-responsiveness in an attempt to obstruct the select subcommittee's investigation and hide evidence that could incriminate or embarrass senior public health officials. It appears that HHS even intentionally under-resourced its component that responds to legislative oversight requests. So they tried to sweep this under the rug real quick, fast, in a hurry, including allegedly understaffing the department that responded to government oversight. Yeah, we laid off some people. Why'd you lay off people? Well, we just didn't need a bunch of people in, government oversight. The people that responded to the government, we just didn't need a lot of those folks. So we only have one for right now. So you guys are going to have to wait. We're backed up about a year and a half. So you guys are going to have to wait for that document. We're doing our best though. Oh boy. Some people better go to jail for this. EcoHealth President Dr. Peter Daszak, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, obstructed the select subcommittee's investigation by providing publicly available information, instructing his staff to reduce the scope and the pace of productions, and doctoring documents before releasing them to the public. Further, Dr. D provided false statements to Congress. Oh, man. Dr. Fauci's senior advisor, Dr. David Morins, deliberately obstructed the select subcommittee's investigation, likely lied to Congress on multiple occasions, unlawfully deleted federal COVID-19 records, and shared non-public information about NIH grant processes with EcoHealth President Dr. Peter D. New York's executive chamber, led presently by Governor Kathy Hochul, redacted documents, offered numerous illegitimate privilege claims, and withheld thousands of documents without an apparent legal basis to obstruct the select subcommittee's investigation into former Governor Cuomo's pandemic-era failures. Wow. I mean, they're just flat out naming people. And once again, this is a government website, guys. This is not a .com, okay? This isn't something that some random Joe Schmo just created, right? This is a government website. This is .gov. This is no joke. No joke. Okay, so where are we at? Okay, the World Health Organization response to COVID-19 pandemic was an abject failure because it caved to pressure from the Chinese Communist Party and placed China's political interest ahead of its international duties. Further, the WHO's newest effort to solve the problem, exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic via pandemic treaty, may harm the United States. This is really going to get you guys too. The 6 feet apart social distancing recommendation, which shut down schools and small businesses across the country, was arbitrary and not based on science. During closed-door testimony, Dr. Fauci testified that the guidance sort of just appeared. Goodness gracious. So we were told to stay 6 feet apart, and that number just came out of thin air. There was no science backing that. Oh, boy. Mask mandates. There was no conclusive evidence that masks effectively protected Americans from COVID-19. Public health officials flip-flopped on the efficacy of masks without providing American scientific data, causing a massive uptick in public distrust. Lockdowns. Prolonged lockdowns caused immeasurable harm to not only the American economy, but also to the mental and physical health of Americans, with particularly negative effect on younger citizens. Rather than prioritizing the protection of the most vulnerable populations, federal and state governments' policies forced millions of Americans to forego crucial elements of a healthy and financially sound life. Yeah, crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Here's Andrew Cuomo. Evidence suggests Mr. Cuomo knowingly and willfully made false statements to the Select Subcommittee on numerous occasions about the material aspects of New York's COVID-19 nursing home disaster and ensuing cover-up. The Select Subcommittee referred Mr. Cuomo to the DOJ for criminal prosecution. Yeah, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. COVID-19 misinformation. Public health officials often misled the American people through conflicting messaging, knee-jerk reactions, and lack of transparency. Most erroneously, the federal government demonized alternative treatments and disfavored narratives such as the lab leak in a shameful effort to coerce and control the American people's health decisions. When those efforts failed, the Biden administration resorted to outright censorship in coercing and colluding with the world's largest social media companies to censor all COVID-19 related dissent. That's true. I remember that. You could not talk about this without getting banned, which is just absolutely crazy to me, right? Why can't we talk about it? Like, think about that. Why are we not allowed to question the narrative? In what world does that make any type of sense? We're not allowed to ask questions? Really? Why? Is it because the answers that we may come up with aren't the answers that you've been giving us? Is that why? You guys remember when mainstream media and Democrats were all telling us not to do our own research? It's dangerous to do our own research. Man. But yeah, I think they're going to go after not only Cuomo, but Dr. Fauci, which this also brings into question, because obviously Fauci was pardoned. This brings into question the legitimacy of his pardon, obviously. And I want to play this story for you guys from House Speaker, why am I drawing a blank? House Speaker Mike Johnson. Goodness gracious, I drew a blank on his name there for a second. Because he tells us an interesting story about Joe Biden that I think everyone needs to hear. And this also may come up in, a case against Joe Biden's pardons, because did he actually know he signed these?
Okay. Let's talk about Biden for a second.
Yeah.
You have said that he is the worst. I actually want to quote this, make sure I get it right. You have said that he is the worst president in the history of this country. I'm going to skip ahead here. Worst.
In some ways, I actually kind of feel sorry for Joe Biden. I mean, he's in the twilight years of his life. He is not, obviously, has not been in charge for some time. And I know this by personal observation, and now the whole world knows it. And it's been very, very concerning to me over the last, year and a half since I've had this position.
Can you tell us a story when you say personal observation? What kind
well,
of thing did you see?
It's public now because the Wall Street Journal got it and put it on the front page. But January a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, I had been asked, I became Speaker in October 2023, and there were all sorts of big national security concerns and everything going on, and I started requesting a meeting with the President because, I'm kind of old school, I'm a constitutional law guy. Speaker of the House should be able to talk to the President, especially in times of great national interest and calamity. But they wouldn't let me meet with him, and his staff kept giving me excuses. This went on for like 8 or 9 weeks. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, he doesn't have time. What are you talking about? I'm second in line of the presidency. He has time. I need to talk to him. We had, I can't say the classified parts, but we had some big national concerns at the time that I was losing sleep over. Finally, I just went to the Hill Press Corps and I said, the President is not being allowed to meet with the Speaker. There's a problem. So they started putting pressure on him. Long story short, they finally relented. They invited me to the White House. I show up and I realize it's actually an ambush because it's not just me and the President. It's also Kamala Harris, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem, the CIA director, everybody. And then, so I walked in the Oval and, I know what this is. They're going to hotbox the Speaker on Ukraine funding. That's what it was. This is probably third week of January. We sit down, we're in the midst of it, and
wait for it.
Conversation, and I'm going, we don't need to have this conversation. The President reaches over just like this. We're sitting right next to the fireplace in the Oval, and he grabs my arm and he says, the Speaker and I just need a couple minutes together. Would y'all just leave us alone? And I looked up on the faces of some of the staff standing around the wall, and they're like, oh, no, he did it. So he called it. He's the Commander-in-Chief. So everybody leaves, and he and I are standing awkwardly in the middle of the Oval Office, right over the rug by that coffee table. And I said, Mr. President, thanks for the moments. This is very important. I got some big national security things I need to talk to you about that I've heard, and I think you know, and what do we do? But first, real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, We just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, you know. And he looks at me, stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order, like, 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought, we're in serious trouble. Who is running the country? Like, I don't know who put the paper in front of him, but he didn't know.
So Joe Biden had no clue what he actually signed. Didn't have a clue. Nothing. And Mike Johnson genuinely believed him when discussing it with him face to face. So now that brings into question the pardons. I would assume the president has to be well aware that he signed the pardons. But was he aware of what he was actually signing? That comes into question. Because allegedly, an auto pen was used. And allegedly, I saw at least one person talking about this. I haven't been able to confirm this, so this is not confirmed. Just an FYI. I did a quick search right before I started this video, and I couldn't find any video clip on this, but one person did say that there was an instance where Joe Biden was asked about the pardons of people like Dr. Fauci, and Joe Biden replied saying something along the lines of, I don't know what you're talking about, basically. Now, I haven't been able to find the video. I have not been able to confirm that, but if that is true, then oh boy, we're in for one hell of a fight right here. Because Democrats are going to fight back. Oh my goodness, he's trying to be a dictator. He's getting rid of presidential pardons. You can't do that. But of course, we're going to say, well, he had no clue that he even signed those. No clue. So either he was just completely out of it and y'all lied to him about what he was actually signing, or he just wasn't in the room at all when the auto pen was used. One of the two. So this is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting. And that's really why I wanted to talk about this story, because I think there's a legitimate case, or I think it is pretty probable that we could see an arrest. Rumors are that we're going to start to see arrests towards the end of the summer. That is the projected beginning of all of this happening. We shall see. Who knows? Like I said before, I said it in yesterday's video, and I'm going to say it again. If Trump does not arrest these folks who committed these crimes, I will not feel bad for him when he leaves office and they all start going after him again. I'm just keeping it $150 with you. And y'all know I rock with Uncle Trump. But if you don't arrest these folks, they're going to turn around and keep doing the same thing that they've always done, because there was no consequence for them doing it in the first place. You got to make sure they understand and know this is unacceptable. You will truly be arrested for real crimes, thrown under the jail for real crimes, not just made up nonsense like you tried to do to Uncle Trump, but you will be thrown in jail for the real crimes you have committed. And you don't get to hide behind a lame duck auto pen, right? A pardon that Joe Biden had no clue was even happening. No. You're going to jail for a long time. At least a long time for an older person. It's basically going to be a life sentence for them. Let me know if y'all agree, though. Let me know if y'all agree. That's where I'm at on this entire situation. I won't feel bad for Uncle Trump. Will it suck watching it? Yeah, but he knows what's coming. If anybody knows what's coming, it's him, because it happened to him. We just all got to watch it. He got to feel it, go through it on a daily basis, right? Live with it. So if anybody knows, he knows. So if he doesn't arrest it. Now, if there's a situation where we can clearly kind of see he wants to arrest them, it's just like the Cash Patels and the Pam Bondis and whatnot that don't want to press the button. All right. Then I'll have some sympathy for Uncle Trump. But outside of that, nah. I got no sympathy for you, brother, because you already know what's coming. If you don't arrest them for the crimes they legitimately committed, they're going to come after you with a bunch of hoaxes. And they're going to make sure they throw you in jail this time, because you can't be president again. I'm just saying. But let me know how y'all feel about it in this whole situation. But thanks for tuning in as always. Y'all stay safe out there. Peace and love. I'm out.